As the officers stood discussing what happened to John and why, Ramous' cell rang. His security system alerted him someone was breaking into the bed and breakfast. He became so fixated on getting home he didn't ask for backup. Once home, he pulled his revolver and slowly made his way around to the back door. It was open. He saw the door was not forced open and assumed he forgot to lock it that morning before he left for the office. It was cracked only slightly, and wind could have pushed it open. He opened it and entered cautiously. After going through the whole house, he relaxed and put his revolver away, convincing himself that it must have been the wind. So, he walked to the back door and locked it. As he was walking back through the house, heading for the front door, everything went black. Ramous woke tied to and sitting in his favorite chair in the sitting room. Across from him was a gorgeous, young-looking woman. He was taken by her beauty. Was she going to murder him? How in the world could such a beautiful woman murder him? What an insult to his pride. He was dumbfounded that such should happen to him. Perhaps, a mean gangly-looking thug should have a vendetta against him and take his life while he enjoyed breakfast at a local diner, but not this pretty young, innocent-looking woman. Please no. She stared at him as if deciding what to do with him. What do you want? She didn't answer. Instead, she continued to stare at him. Ramous believed he was going to die. They would find him out on the beach like they did John. Why did you kill my friends? I didn't kill your friends. Dania Blue killed your friends. Her voice was soft and feminine, causing Ramous' heart to skip a beat. Who's Dania Blue? She's the first. She's sick and mad at mankind and wants to kill every human being. That's a terrible combination. My name is Zoe. I'm a second gen, and I'm number 3. We are trying to stop Dania and her companions. Are you affiliated with the St. Paul Corporation? Yes, they created us. It was a horrible experiment gone wrong, taking us from our mothers and making us into these machines. Nothing good came from it, and now 153 first gens are attempting to destroy humanity. I can't blame them, but what they're doing is wrong. It's not right to murder. I have no clue what you're talking about, other than seeing a video about the murder of 3 researchers at St. Paul. I heard the name Dania on the video. Apparently, she killed those men. Otherwise, I'm clueless. Is that true? Yes, that information wasn't supposed to be revealed to the public. The video is the reason your officers were murdered. Dania is trying to cover her tracks so she will not be found out. Also, St. Paul has tried to keep the information from the public because it would destroy the corporation. That's why they sent the second gens, like me, out to stop Dania and the first gens. What's a gen? Gens are human beings created and grown in the lab by the St. Paul Corporation. There's information in this briefcase explaining our situation. She pointed to a briefcase sitting next to her. Zoe, you said officers. Does that mean my officer Paul Hawke is dead? He didn't want to hear the answer for fear of what she was about to say. He stiffened his mind and body in preparation. Yes, Paul Hawke is dead. 2 first gens buried his body and his car on an obscure beach in Florence, just north of the sand dunes. I'll give you the GPS coordinates before I leave. I'm here because you're next on Dania's list. You are lucky to be alive. She never does this, but she has missed you twice. Beware, she's watching. I and others will watch too. Hopefully, we can catch her before she kills again. The news regarding Paul nearly paralyzed him, but he expected it. He tried to prepare for it, but expecting or preparing didn't make it easier. He stared at Zoe for the next 5 minutes with the images of Paul's and John's faces flashing in his mind. Zoe patiently waited for his response. Typically, I would have a million questions about whom and what you are, but I can only concentrate on the death of my friends at this moment. What can I do to bring those responsible to justice? Do you know where Dania is? No, Dania has a GPS inserted in her body, but she and the others have removed it. We second gens are also equipped with GPS, but we have all dismantled those systems for our safety. Without the GPS, it's next to impossible to find them. They can hide anywhere. We must catch them when they're moving. We know she's in the area, but we don't know where. She adjusted her position and her face. Chief Rignor, I'm the one who broke Peter Daniels' neck. I broke it in such a way as not to kill him. We captured the first gen assigned to kill Peter Daniels, and I took his place. I retrieved the information from Daniels and hid it, although I missed the thumb drive in the video player. Again, Dania killed the officers because they saw the video. And you're next. I'm sorry. So am I. First gens are looking for a list of over 1,000 women who aborted their children. Children used for the Angel Project experiment. The list with several other files are still missing. We expected it to be with the information I took from Daniels, but it was not there. If Dania gets a hold of the names of those women, she and the rest of the first gens will kill them all, and their families. It would be hard to stop them once they retrieve it. Those women are the most hated by first gens among humans. Are you telling me that this is some sort of pro-life movement? No, it's more than that. It's about protecting information leaks. Daniels came across that information and ran to the beach with it. Now, here we are. Also, Peter Daniels is still in danger. I know he's at OHSU in Portland under an alias. The first gens don't know he's still alive, but when they find out, they will send another to finish the job. We are confident they found out I posed as their operative, and will figure out I didn't kill Daniels, and they will seek to finish the job. At the time I put Mr. Daniels out, the first gens were unaware they sent the second gens to stop them. Now, I'm sure, because the research information was not delivered to them, they have figured out we're involved. Because of our involvement, they will become more active. Many people could die. What does that have to do with me? I'm only interested right now in catching those responsible for the murder of my officers and friends. Do you understand? Yes, I understand, Chief. I'm sorry. I wished we could have prevented it. We didn't expect them to kill anyone except Daniels. We prevented his death, but could not prevent the deaths of your friends. Ramous understood. But understanding didn't remove his pain or diminish his determination to arrest those responsible, although he knew this young woman sitting before him did not do it. She planned to catch those same people. Clearly, you didn't do it, but I'm still furious. Please, if you can, help me catch those responsible. That's our intention, Ramous, and why we're here. Afterward, Zoe filled Ramous in on more of the atrocities committed by St. Paul. She filled him in on the process and the results. He listened, but it only proved to be more heartache. Finally, she stood and set the small briefcase next to Ramous and returned to the other chair. In the briefcase is a copy of all the information Daniels was carrying with him. Again, those files will fill in the blanks I don't have time to explain. St. Paul doesn't want the information to get out. I'm going against my orders in giving them to you, so put the briefcase in a safe place in case it all falls apart. Mr. Daniels intended to give this to the media. It's not the right time now, but when the time comes, you will need to do so. When she finished, she stood in front of Ramous, staring at him. I hate what St. Paul has done to me and others like me. They had no right, and it was wrong. St. Paul needs to be exposed. But before then we have to stop the first gens. Another kind of anger built inside Ramous. He was now angry about his perception of the immoral acts perpetrated on this young woman. He now saw before him a child, an abused child. His heart became saddened for her and others like her. He almost felt compassion for them. Again more heartache. I'm sorry, Zoe, for what has happened to you. It was not right, and not what God planned for mankind. I even have a deep sense of sadness for Dania, despite what she is trying to accomplish. I can't imagine the anger she must have. Chief Rignor, God has his plan. Creatures like me are judgment. We are the wrath of God for the murder of millions of children in the womb. You don't believe God would ignore the cries of all those children, do you? He whispered, what a profound observation. Mr. Rignor, Ramous, we're human. Only, we have more artificial components than other humans. Even though they grew us in labs, we have our personalities and beliefs, which makes us all human. He looked into her eyes as they teared up. There was a profound sadness in her demeanor. She had to take a hard swallow to keep from breaking down. The first gens were born with a chemical defect which led to schizophrenic tendencies, with bouts of paranoia. St. Paul refused to kill them and tried to resolve the problem with pharmaceuticals. That didn't work too well. Now, the first gens call themselves the Order of God's Judgment. Like them, I too sense we're God's judgment because of the murder of all those children. I am clueless about God's judgment most of the time, but this makes sense. Except for the murder of my two friends, I might have just let this play out. Let you do your job, Dania do hers, and go about my daily business. I'm an officer of the law, which is a godly position. I have accepted it with all its complications. Someone has murdered two officers and friends of mine, and it's my obligation, my desire, to bring those who committed those crimes to justice. So, perhaps you and I are together tools of God's judgment. Now, are you going to untie me? You will get out soon enough. I need to leave before you're missed. I and others will keep an eye on you, waiting for Dania to make an attempt on your life. Goodbye, Ramous. Zoe left through the back door. Ramous didn't like being the bait and presumed they failed while using both Paul and John as bait. He considered he would come to the same end, but was just too angry to let it bother him. Then, he mused about how Zoe continued to describe her situation during the conversation. He figured she was not only trying to bring down Dania, but she was also revealing the painful reality of who or what she was. He understood in her way she was confiding in him. That caused him to have feelings for her. It took him 15 minutes to untie the knots, and 10 more to figure out what to do. He concluded he couldn't involve any more people in this investigation, fearing more of his friends might get killed. He would keep his and Zoe's conversation to himself. Once Ramous got out of the chair, after he gathered his thoughts, he called the Florence police station. He talked with Officer Meyer and gave him the coordinates to find Paul's body. I hope this is just bad information, Chief Rignor. Me too, Sam. Thank you. Please hurry and contact me as soon as you find him. Yes, sir, we're on it. Ramous knew they would find him. Zoe was too specific for it to turn out otherwise. Ramous returned to the Tillamook station where he paused in front of Claire's desk, staring at her. She perceived why he was looking at her in such a way as the tears fell. He walked around her desk as she stood, and he hugged her for a long time as she wept. Ramous was a strong man, but he almost broke down twice while holding her. He held her until the phone rang with an officer on the other end, confirming they found the body of their friend Paul. They found him right where Ramous told them he would be. There were 4 other officers in the station and they all gathered around, explaining their disbelief and sadness at the loss of Paul and John. Ramous walked into his office as Clara and the rest of the officers followed him. He knew he couldn't disclose his conversation with Zoe. No one said a word as they sat together in silence for what seemed like hours, until David, the coroner, called telling Ramous he was on his way to collect Paul's body. I'm sorry, Ramous. We lost 2 good men. Catch these guys and bring them to justice, Ram. He didn't even say goodbye. Ramous understood it upset David like everyone else. Now, Claire was the only other person left with a dangerous amount of knowledge about this investigation. Everyone returned to their desks, except Claire. She was still crying and unable to do her job at the moment. Claire, did you find any numbers for management at the St. Paul Corporation? Yes, I did. She walked to her desk and came back and handed the numbers to Ramous. Ramous looked at her. I don't want you involved with this case any longer. If anyone should ask you, you're to refer them to me. It's imperative you follow my instructions, Claire. Can I ask why? No, you can't, and you can't speak of this conversation to anybody either. All right, Chief. Clara turned to her desk and sat for a long time with her head in her hands. The following days, Ramous made funeral arrangements for Paul and helped with preparations for John. Paul divorced within the last year. He didn't have children, and his ex-wife moved to Texas. Ramous didn't even bother to tell her. John was married with 2 children in college. His family needed him to help with the funeral arrangements due to their emotional stress. They buried both officers the same day, next to one another. For Ramous, it was a sad day and a happy day at the same time. He was confident Paul and John accepted Christ. He would miss them, but he believed they were in heaven, which is a much happier place than the earth. John's wife Debbie talked with Ramous. She was heartbroken, but understood too why John was much happier where he's at. There was a big dinner in their honor that evening. Hundreds of people came from all over the country. The local church prepared the food and provided tables and seating. Several of John and Paul's family and friends got up to talk about them, as did Ramous. The next day, Ramous purposed to follow his routine. He needed an ordinary day, although he spent most of it driving around reflecting on the loss of his friends. That night he ate a late dinner by himself. Before he finished, a slight knock came at the back door. Ramous didn't recognize the knock until he heard the knock a second time. It's too late for anyone to come by. It was 10 p.m. Perhaps, an officer has come by and needed to talk. Instead, it was the young woman, Zoe. What are you doing here? Is Dania here? No, I'm alone. Ramous was reluctant to invite her in. He wondered if he should leave her on the back deck. Was she going to tie him to the chair again? Please come in, Zoe. She stepped inside the door and stood there until Ramous motioned for her to sit at a breakfast stool next to the kitchen counter. Out of a sense of caution, he walked around to the other side of the counter. As she took a seat, she told Ramous she heard Dania returned to Seattle. It didn't appear he was on her hit list any longer. You are safe now, Chief. You're not as important of a target to them. Besides, the word is, they have determined killing you might bring too much publicity their way. Killing officers are one thing, but a police chief might be too newsworthy. Ramous was not concerned about his safety. He was still too mad about the murder of his friends and fellow officers. He believed he would find those responsible and bring them to justice, no matter where they go, but he kept quiet about that. You could have called and told me this. Yes, I know, but I wanted to see you again. Zoe was beautiful with olive eyes and long dark flowing hair. His thoughts proved almost disturbing considering what was going on. Ramous desired to put his arms around her. How frustrating. She looked about 10 years younger than he, and he was flattered by her comment, although he said nothing in response to it, being apprehensive and on guard. Zoe told him the rest of the second gens were called back to Washington, but 2 second gens would stay behind for 2 weeks to make sure he remained safe. She tried to convince him there was nothing more to worry about regarding his own safety, or anyone else on the coast, unless he made himself a nuisance to Dania's plan. It would be dangerous to continue investigating. Ramous perceived she was warning him to back off, but he had no intention of doing that under any circumstances. Zoe got up to leave. I hope this isn't the last time we meet, but I'm not sure what will happen from here on out. So, I guess I'll say goodbye and sorry for knocking you out and tying you up. I have been watching you for a while. You're a kind man, Ramous. It will be hard to leave. Goodbye. Ramous said goodbye as she left through the back door. It made him anxious when Zoe told him that she and the other second gens were leaving. The possibility of never seeing her again made him uneasy. He had not experienced the feelings he had for her in a long time. Although he's only met her twice, there was something about her he couldn't resist or get out of his mind. Resisting those kinds of feelings was Ramous' strong suit, but not this time. The best he could do was to concentrate on other matters, and not about her, but thinking about her was exactly what he did the rest of the night.